Imagine taking your generosity to the next level, impacting more lives and leaving a godly legacy for generations to come. Get ideas and strategies to do just that when you listen to these personal stories from high-level kingdom champions. The Kingdom Investor Podcast showcases business leaders who have moved from success to significance, sharing how they use worldly wealth for kingdom impact. Discover how they grew in generosity, impacted more lives, and built godly legacies. You'll find motivation, inspiration, and practical steps to grow as a kingdom investor.
Chris D Estes, welcome to the Kingdom Investor Podcast. How are you?
Doing great, man. Too blessed to be stressed.
Too blessed. Love it. So tell us a little bit about yourself and where you're coming to us from.
Yeah, so we're right now we're in the pool house in Nicholasville, Kentucky. So right close to Lexington. And I'm from a small town. You blink, you miss us here in Kentucky, South Central Kentucky. Grew up on a farm. Played sports growing up. Baseball was my primary, was fortunate to get a baseball scholarship, small college, and went on to be a school teacher and coach. And then from there, I was introduced to an opportunity. You know, when opportunity knocks, you can't be in the backyard looking for a 4-leaf clover. So a friend of mine introduced me to a sales opportunity, and I took the bull by the horn, and the rest is really history. And I know we'll dig a little deeper as we go on, but that's the fundamentals. I'm an incredible wife. I have 5 kids, 16, 15, 14, 11, and a 7-month-old. So
wow.
Yeah, we've been pretty busy.
That's awesome. So give us just a little glimpse into your week. What's going on? What's maybe a highlight from this week so far?
Like I said a minute ago, it's date night.
Okay.
So one of the rhythms, the cadences. I like a cadence. I like a rhythm. I know you do as well.
Yep.
We've been chatting before the podcast here. Is having that date night. You know, you either grow together, or grow apart. So that's always a highlight. We haven't had it yet this week. We did couples massage last week, and then this morning we have a faith and fitness Bible study men's group that I started a few years ago. And so we do that. I have a different group on Monday, a different group on Wednesday. So it's always a highlight. It's been great to see all of us grow, you know, focus on sport, encouragement, accountability, and see us. We started at 12. Now we have 60 plus people.
Oh my gosh.
That wake up 5:30 a.m. Eastern. We have several that do 4:30 Central. So it's commitment.
Yep.
And you are either typically sleeping at 4:30, 5:30, or you can wake up, get fed, get some bread for the head, and get some inspiration. And so that's always a highlight, Daniel. Every week is being around those men. They're cushioning you to do better as a husband, as a father, obviously growing closer to the Lord. So
for sure. Well, Chris, do you mind praying for us as we get started here?
Yeah.
Let's dive into your backstory.
Hey, my pleasure. Well, dear Heavenly Father, thank you for Daniel and this Kingdom Investor Podcast. Thank you for him taking the initiative to be a servant leader and add value to people. Lord, thank you for your love and your forgiveness, your protection. Lord, thank you for all your many blessings, the advantages, opportunities you provide all of us. Lord, I just ask you to bless us, this podcast, bless all the listeners with ears to hear, that we grow in our faith, that we grow in all areas of life, and just bless us with strength and courage, that we step up, speak out, and stand strong for you. Lord, help us to strengthen that generosity muscle as we use our time, talent, and treasures to serve you and grow more disciples. Lord, we praise you and glorify you in all things. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Thank you, Chris.
Yeah, my pleasure.
Would you unpack your story for us? We'd love to hear more.
Yeah, so like I said, I'll kind of fast forward all the front part. So I grew up pretty boring, small town, like I said, on a farm. I raised tobacco. That's how I bought my first car. I grew up in church, school, sports, was inspired by, I feel very fortunate that I had really good mentors. That'd be school teachers, that'd be Sunday school teachers, that'd be coaches, and then a work ethic, being around the farm, actually, doing that manual labor. We actually have our kids do the landscape at the house just so they can learn that maybe they don't like it.
Right.
But, I played sports, like I said. I was fortunate to go to a Christian college, Lindsey Wilson College here in Kentucky. I played baseball that I liked, didn't necessarily love, but I liked the game.
Yeah.
And that led me into having, a degree in education, a master's degree in counseling, and was teacher coach for 10 years, coached multiple sports, basketball, baseball, tennis. We had lots of success there. And then, like I said, the story really starts, Daniel, when the knock on the door, when a friend introduced me to a health and wellness company. And like I said earlier, opportunities are never lost. Someone will always take the opportunity. And for me, I did something that I think all the listeners should do. I did something called a life audit. And when I looked at my life, I had full-time jobs.
Yeah.
We all have 86,400 seconds every single day, 86,400 seconds. So I had full-time jobs, and I actually liked what I did. Didn't necessarily like what I was getting paid, but I liked what I did. And I really knew from an early age, Daniel, my calling was to be a teacher and a coach. What I did, though, was I put a lid on what that really meant. A lid on coaching on a basketball court or a baseball field, or coaching or teaching in a classroom versus teaching and coaching on a global scale.
Yeah.
And that's where, that's the God vision versus your man vision. And so when I did that life audit, full-time job, part-time life, I was going to spend my life raising everybody else's kids and never see my own kids if I didn't make a change.
Yeah.
And we know the only person that likes to change is a wet baby. And we both have some babies, so we know what that means. But you're likely to get better by chance. It gets better by change. And so for me, as I looked at that life audit, I said, you know what? I don't have the money. I don't have the time. I've never been in any kind of business. Don't have that experience. But Abe Lincoln, who's from the small town that I was teaching and coaching, he said, good things may come to those who wait, but only the things left by those who hustle. And so I decided to take a chance, take a shot, and I got started. And part-time, I started building a business, 1 to 10 to, now hundreds of thousands of customers and associates. That led me into choices and options that I would have never had teaching and coaching, which I really enjoyed.
Yeah.
I feel like I was providing purpose, serving, inspiring, breathing life into those kids. But that path led me into opportunities that would have never happened to be able to serve in a big way. We've been able to partner with a ministry called Starfish and visit Haiti and fund a medical clinic and a boys orphanage and teach financial literacy and leadership. It's been really, something that I wouldn't have been able to do as a school teacher and coach, restricted from a finance standpoint, restricted from a con standpoint. And so when you remove those restrictions, lots of opportunity can happen. Of course, you and I know one another through real estate. So from that opportunity led to more personal development, growth, books, listening. And I started to invest in a single family house and a duplex and a fourplex. And, now we are closing in on 1,000 units, about 90 million in assets under management. Super thankful for that. And we're just continuing to grow and multiply and build. So that's the big, 90-second snapshot there.
So can you share maybe some milestones along the way? Like, what were you guys thinking? What was some of the things that were instrumental to your success? Kind of unpack that a little bit for us.
I'm driven when people tell me no. Okay. I don't like it. I don't know who likes rejection.
Yeah.
But I had a lot of that when I started. So, the road for the most part, Daniel, was really easy. My childhood, even though we were lower middle class, I always had what I needed and excelled in sports, had good college experience, got a job very easy. Everything's, rolling. And then bam, you start business and you get punched in the mouth. And the rejection, the ridicule and opposition. I remember a community member one time saying, Chris, how do you sleep at night? Don't you have all this rejection, ridicule, opposition? I said, I sleep like a baby. I wake up every 2 hours crying, period, which And so I think really the driver, the adversity, John Maxwell is a mentor of mine. He said, adversity should be a stepping stone, not a tombstone. Mm-hmm. And so for me, it was the adversity advantage. And that adversity advantage was all the people you would think would want you to win was actually wanting you to lose, because you doing more than them kind of makes them look like they're not doing enough. And so there was, in a small town, which is where I started, Tulare town, where everybody knows one another, there's that challenge. And, one of my favorite current verses in 1 Corinthians, which I believe is just a manly, a godly mandate. 1 Corinthians 16, 13, 14, be on guard. Mm-hmm. And so I'm a sports guy, and we all like offense. Mm-hmm. We like seeing offense, whether it's basketball, but what we should all be doing is playing defense. Mm-hmm. We should be guarding who we are around, because people will increase you or they'll decrease you. And I was allowing some people to plant those negative seeds. Mm-hmm. And you want to make sure you don't let negative people rent space in your head. You got to raise the rent, kick them out. And so for me, a driving force was all the haters, all the people that were saying that, Chris, you should go back into your classroom. You should go back into the basketball court versus go big. Yeah. And so that was a driver for me. And adversity really toughened me. It calloused the mind. It calloused, all those little punches, all those little cuts. Yeah, really, really helped. And when you hit, not that I did, but if you were to correlate it to hitting a rock bottom, say in a business venture, or you're struggling, which I did. Yeah, you have to know there is a rock at the bottom, and that's where you look up, and you're wise in the sky, and it helps drive you to your the next day. The no, you say next. And that's exactly why we're here today. We're here because when I got a no, I said next, and I continued to fight another day, just like you, as you're building your brand and you're building your company, and all successful people, they get knocked down, and the difference is they don't stay down.
Right. That's good. It's really good. What other things do you believe are maybe keys to your success and the success that you've seen?
When I started, I'm a ready, fire, aim guy. Mm-hmm. So I'm ready, and earn while you learn. I don't have to go to, even though I went to college, you don't have to go to 4 or 5 years to get a degree for 4 or 5 years to learn how to invest in real estate. Right. You can learn. You want to learn something. You want to apply to, over time, through experience, through reading books, through listening, having good counsel. Where there's no counsel, the people fall. Yeah. Biblical stuff is I built. So what success? What this whole success thing? I say I eat my apple every day. And so over the course of years, through trials and repetition, I built a concept, because I'm a cadence rhythm guy, just like you are, is every day I choose, use the apple, an apple a day keeps the doctor away. I use that concept.
Sounds like this.
It's exactly right. So John Maxwell, who helped navigate, inspire me with that book, is Apple's an acronym. Mm-hmm. But I use this concept of an apple a day keeps the doctor away. How about an apple a day will bring success your way? Mm-hmm. And so A.P.P.L.E. obviously is an acronym, stands for attitude, prepare, perform, learn, and evaluate. And, for me, it's every day we all can wake up, we have a choice, and we can decide to be a winner or we can be a whiner. We can see our cup half filled, or we can see our cup half spilled. We can talk about where we're going to, not what we're going through. So it's, your attitude in life determines your life's attitude towards you. And I think a lot of times people wake up and they're in defeat from the get-go because they haven't made the choice. And the choice is to have the right attitude. And then obviously you move through, we may expand on this later, but I essentially apply in all things I do. I just make sure every day I eat my apple.
Yeah.
And it's, you call it corny or simple, but it is what it is.
Yeah. If it's effective, it's effective.
It's effective. And, John Maxwell talks about the rule of 5. He does 5 things every day. And if A.P.P.L.E is five things. There's 5 things I do every day. And
what are those 5 things?
Yeah. So obviously the attitude, having a winning attitude. The second is to prepare. So you're either prepare or repair. We think about Noah. Noah built the ark before the rain came.
Right.
And so most people, they are in repair mode. Preparation relieves pressure.
Yeah.
And so for me, if I wake up with the right attitude, a winning attitude, and I'm prepared, I prepare and block my day. And then the second P, which is perform, meaning I take action. God feeds the birds every morning, but he doesn't throw worms down their throat. Meaning we must take action. We must perform. And, the plan creates the track. That's the prepare, but it's the action that creates the traction. So if you want traction in your life, you want to grow in your faith, you want to grow in your marriage, you want to grow as a father, you want to grow as a mother, you want to grow in your business, then you got to take action. You can't, you got to prepare that you perform and then learn. That's the beauty of a podcast, is being able to sift through all the different great facilitators, those who run podcasts and read, you gave me 2 great books I'm going to be indulging in. And so you must learn. It's what you learn after you know it all that counts. And to be a continual winner, you must be a habitual learner. And so it's building that habit, that repetition of every day I'm going to learn something, whatever areas of life you're looking to grow in. And then the E stands for evaluate. You must assess to progress.
Yeah.
So if you want to progress every day, what's your scorecard? We're at a moment where the College World Series is happening, and unfortunately, our Kentucky Wildcats lost today. So they, eliminated, but they made it to College World Series for the first time. And I know some of you listening, you care less about that, but they lost because there was a score being, they were keeping score.
Yeah.
And so how are we not keeping score in the things that we feel are important? And so at the end of the day, you must assess what your score is.
Right.
So that's the apple, man. That's every day. If everyone were to do that in real estate, to do it as a teacher, to do it as a coach, to do it as a husband or a father in ministry, then would they progress in their life? I believe they would.
Yeah, that's good. So, Chris, why did you choose to go to the particular business or line of business that you chose?
Like I said, when kids at 12, 13, and I remember distinctly 7th grade, so for most kids 12, 13, is they're talking still about being a pro athlete. And I knew I was aware, I was vertically challenged. Even though I had some athletic skill, I already knew there was no professional athlete there. And man, I just, again, because of having good coaches, good teachers, good integrity, character, that's my calling. I'm going to be a school teacher and a coach. And again, I created my own limitations to what that really meant. But when that opportunity knocked, it was, I can teach and coach. I can teach people health.
Yeah.
I can teach them health and wealth. And I can make this a global movement, which we did. Started at one in a little small town in Kentucky, and now we're multiples of countries, several 100,000 customers and associates across the world. and I get to teach and coach, my calling,
Yeah.
which then led into all these other avenues.
Yeah.
Investing in real estate, being able to teach people how to invest, the faith bucket, if you will, being able to facilitate and create a godly men's group to grow in their faith, have strength and courage. Because what we know, Daniel, and you see this, is there's lots of men who are boys, lots of Christian men who are really boys.
Yeah.
They're rejecting, that they are passive. They need to be rejecting passivity, and they're not taking the initiative. They're not stepping up.
Yeah. So true. So can you maybe share a little bit more about what the organization looks like that you've created, and really how you created that, and how that's kind of grown?
Yeah. So I just, the simple, Daniel, is I took all of the years of being an athlete, all the years of being a school teacher, all the years of being a coach, and I built a system. What do we want to do? We want to scale. We want to be simple scales, fancy fails. And so you keep things simple, and the way to do that is use some of the skills and knowledge that you already have through your experience. And then you build a system, and you teach people how to duplicate that process. And that's exactly what, you look at linear and geometric progression. 2 + 2, we know it's 4. 2 × 2, we know it's what? It's 4.
Yeah.
But if you take 30 linear steps, you're going to travel about 90 feet. You take 30 geometric steps, you're going to travel the world 26 times. That's the power of geometric progression. And so for me, I learned real quick that you want to move with speed. You want to multiply. You want to multiply people's, whether it be money, people, growth, whatever area you want to focus on multiplication. And that was our focus as we built the business. Was not addition subtraction, because subtraction always wins in addition subtraction. Right. Multiplication, you can go beyond what you thought was possible, which is exactly what happened. So you think about the business. It's I call it the 5-star recruit, getting the athlete in me. The 5-tool player. And so for me, it was attracting. It wasn't getting people into my team, to my sales force, if you will, or a product. It was letting people in, meaning they had to qualify through their integrity, their character, their desire, their influence or personality. I think your flavor creates your favor. And so there was all these little pieces that said, this is a leader. This is someone who's going to lead us to some other good, faith-based, good quality, character, integrity, high ethical people. And that's how we were able to scale, because if you get an influential person, you get all their followers.
Right.
And if you have, if you're focused on developing champions, and we focus on what we call winning championships in any area of life, is you want to develop champions. And that's what we do.
Gotcha. That's good. So what are some of the lessons that you've learned along the way through different failures or different opportunities?
Yeah. I mean, there's so many lessons. My wife tells me screwing up's a spiritual gift of mine. So I would say, failing forward, is probably the one nobody wants to experience, but the one that really grounds you to propel and to excel. And then what I mentioned earlier was all the people I thought would want me to win actually wanted me to lose. And I think, there's currently people in all of our lives that are not qualified to be in our future. And we have to be cautious again, to be on guard, to be alert of who the people are that are cheering you on, and who the people are that are hoping that you fail. And you want to pray for those people. Obviously you want them to do well, and but you want to guard against who you're around and make sure that you're around people that's going to push you, that's done it bigger, better, faster, that is your cheerleader. And so for me, when I think about lessons, it's my saying was, with success comes the haters. You can only hope for increasing numbers. So if you really want to make an impact, you have to know, I mean, some of the great pastors out there, some of the great entrepreneurs out there, they have lots of haters, and they have lots of haters because of the success they're having. And it's not even success, it's success to significance. They're creating significance in the legacy that they're creating in their lives. So those are some key lessons for me. Is I had to focus less on offense really and more on defense, and really qualify the people that were giving me counsel, people that was sharing with me. So
watching who you let influence you.
That's right.
So thinking about how you've really kind of moved from success to significance, what are maybe some stories you could share about how you've leveraged success and wealth to further God's kingdom and invest in God's kingdom?
Yeah. So
what does that look like?
There's the famous parable of the talent story, which talent actually is money in that story. And two of them did a wonderful job. And if you remember the story, the other one hid it. Hid the money. And, for me, it's, and for others who are listening, who already know this, it's not our money. It's we're to be a good steward of that money. So that, that's the money piece. And then we all have 86,400 seconds every day. That's 24 hours. And when you're able to create leverage, which is the goal, which for me was the goal of, I want to own my time. And so now you have time, that you have some money because you were able to multiply it. Which is through the business, through real estate, whatever your areas are. Then you can start investing both in people and in things. So for us, we partnered with a ministry called Starfish. We've been fortunate from a financial standpoint through work. You've probably heard that story about the guy who was wanted to win the lottery, and so he prayed to God, God, please help me win the lottery. And every day, please, days and weeks and months would go by, and nothing would happen. And finally, he pleaded, please, God, help me win the lottery. And the heavens opened up, and a deep voice said, "So my son, meet me halfway, buy a lottery ticket." And that meant you got to take action.
Right.
And, faith without works is dead. I think that's in James chapter 2. Faith without works is dead. And so if you want to be able to fund a medical clinic or fund a boys' orphanage in Haiti, which we have been able to do, and that's not to impress anybody, it's to impress upon you. If you want to do something like that, you got to go to work. You got to take action. You got to play, you got to be on guard. You have to be firm in your beliefs and your faith, and be courageous and strong, and do everything in love. But you have to take action. You have to do it. And so we've been fortunate to be able to, do that financially, support a kid, do all those types of things. But also, we're able to, because of time, we have a little boys group, raising boys in a godly men group we call Kingdom Warriors. And so that's a ministry. That's a ministry because you now own your time. You're able to invest in people. So the invest in the young generation, invest in the men who maybe have drifted because of their associations again. And they're really boys who need to be pushed. They need a leader, somebody that can help guide them, hold them accountable to stuff they want to do anyway. They want to get in the Word, they want to read, they want to study, they want to pray, they want to be around, and that all requires some time. And so, for us thinking about time, talent, treasures, it's using, what are you have to identify, what are your gifts, what are you good at, how can you then serve from a ministry standpoint. And I'm sure there's all these interviews of all these people doing these miraculous things, but I'm more of a build local, grow global type guy, meaning start where you are.
Yeah.
And there are people here, whether it be kids, adults, they need direction. They need inspiration. They need motivation. They need encouragement. They need support. They need accountability. They need somebody to lead them.
Yeah.
And so we've created we have a marriage and family group as well that holds us accountable, that's holding them accountable. So for me, it's about building communities and serving those communities, specifically making and ensuring that we're foundationed in faith. And it's all from that first. And then we can talk real estate, then we can talk marriage, and then we can talk all the other things. So
that's good. What about how have you leveraged real estate to do different support?
Funny enough, if you remember a couple of years ago, how we met, and something I know we'll partner with in the future is there was a concept that a friend that connected us. I'm like, man, I've got to meet this Daniel guy because he's wanting to do what I've already personally done by myself. And I love the multiplication game, meaning he's looking to find other people like-minded people like us who want to, that enjoy real estate, understand real estate. They understand the benefits, the multi-dimensional ways you earn money simultaneously in real estate. It's unbelievable. Best investment financially, I believe there is. And at the same time, to create this kingdom investing concept of, and this goes back into that parable of the talent concept for me, is, man, to give is great. Start there. But once you start learning and don't just create, hey, 10%, it's the 10%, maybe put a goal and make it 11%. But what if you could take that $100,000 or $10,000 or whatever it is that you were going to tithe for the year? You invested it into an asset that would spit you off cash flow that you would then tithe. And based on your real estate philosophy, I mean, ours is infinite. We play the infinite game, meaning as soon as we acquire a property, we already have a plan to reposition that property and get all of our capital and then some back. So if you had a property that is a kingdom asset, meaning I'm now taking this money, I'm preserving it in this deal, it's going to spit me off cash flow that I'm going to tithe and give, maybe to this specific ministry, maybe it's to this church, or maybe it's a combination of the two or three or whatever it is. And in a year or two or three, or whenever the time, there's all these variables that we can't go into today. But when the time is right, you then reposition the property. It gets a new value. It has equity, what I call house money. You get the original capital and then some back, which is not your money again. It's God's money. It's the kingdom invested money that you would have given that would have been used one time. But in this particular case, you have this money that you can reinvest in another kingdom asset that's going to spit you out what, Daniel? More cash flow that you're going to do what with? Not go on a vacation, but to tithe and give to all the different ministries and churches, things that you're passionate about. And then what do? You repeat the process. You still earn more money. Of course, you're going to live off of a portion of that. You're going to tithe. But the tithing for me is investing in these kingdom assets that's going to grow in appreciation, that's going to spit off the cash flow. And so that's something I'm passionate about, and something that you know, I consider myself still pretty young, not young like you,
Yes.
but at 65 years old, my goal is to, you know, give away 95%.
Yeah.
And man, that's what Jim Collins, I believe, would call a BHAG, a big, hairy, audacious goal.
There you go.
And in order to do that, though, you must start.
Yeah.
And I loved, and probably why I was very excited to meet you the first time, because I knew we were already in alignment on the vision of that multiplication factor.
Yeah.
I'm big multiplication, not addition, subtraction. And most people, they don't know any different than addition, subtraction. So they just they're giving us, which is better than most people. Yeah. But if you know more, like there's nothing wrong with average unless you can do better. And now you're listening to the podcast, you can do better. Yeah. You don't have to like what I say, but if you process it logically, not emotionally, you know, most people, knowledge leads to a conclusion. It's emotion that leads to action on how you feel. So I just want you to feel something, so it forces you to take some kind of action. Ask yourself some questions, because this concept is a pretty phenomenal concept on multiplying God's money and doing, you know, to whom much is given, much is required. If you've been given time, you've been given opportunities, you took action, good for you. And you're now reaping the benefits and earning income to be able to invest it into a kingdom asset that can provide money to support all these causes. Everybody should be cheering and applauding those people that do that.
Yeah, sure. It's good. All right. Fun question.
Yeah.
What is the greatest investment that you've ever made?
Ooh.
Maybe a fun version and a serious version.
You know, when people ask investment,
sure.
My answer, the first answer always comes to mind is me. So maybe that's not an exciting answer, a boring answer, but you know what? The greatest investment was me. And what I mean by that is investing in the book that I read, investing in the seminar I went to, and that story I heard that inspired me to take the action that was necessary for me to get me into the room to meet someone that led me to you, Dan.
Yeah. And
so, man, the best investment I've ever made was in myself and learning and growing. You know, the secret to success for people is not to get rid of or avoid or shrink from your problems. It's to grow yourself so you're bigger than any problem. And when I focused on me, like, man, you know, when are you going to save enough money to invest in your first deal? When I grow myself big enough to handle the challenges and problems. And so, man, I look back 15 years ago, 16 years ago, and go, man, I'm so thankful for those first books. So those first audios I listened to that directed me to that first seminar that I went to, these different mentors. So, incredible investment.
That's good. Do you have maybe a fun investment that you've made that was just had awesome returns, or just a fun story, or a real estate deal that you did that you
there's multiples of the real estate. Obviously there's multiple of our infinite played real estate deals that we've acquired. Like I said, we're closing in on 1,000. That's an initial goal, which is, you know, we started in 17 essentially, so we're fairly new. But again, the momentum, the multiplication, the big vision, having the right resources, and that means people, being around those. But man, what great investments of being able to purchase a property and 12 months later reposition, get that property revalued, and get all your money and then some out, and to have but probably the biggest one at this point is the ones that our kids did with us. So teaching them how to give, save, spend, and learn how to save their money, be disciplined, learn how to work. I call it the 3 P's, where they you know, personal development, there's the the perspiration, where they actually put in some sweat equity. And then there's the performance piece. So we pay the kids to perform, do some different things. Those are the ways they earn money. And then they give a portion, obviously, and then they save. And when they save enough, then they can invest in one of our deals. So probably if I'm thinking about real estate deals, just for them to learn the processes. I mean, they know more than most people who are big owner operators of deals, that they can analyze, underwrite a deal and know if it's a good deal or not a good deal. And we had lots of conversations. So that it's not just them making the money, it's them knowing the process. So that would be a fun investment. I think, because to me, it's not a fun investment if it's not creating a return.
Right. Yeah.
And then, the faith-based investment, obviously would be the real estate asset that we purchased that's providing their return. And, we're in the cycle that hasn't been repositioned, but, being able to invest in those kids in Haiti and the orphanage and the medical clinic. Obviously those are an investment. The return isn't money. The return is the impact that it has in that village. Yeah. And I've heard many stories over the years. And so again, it's not about me. My job is just to be a good steward of the money through the actions and the resources that we have been blessed with. Mm-hmm. And, you look back and even though you're not day to day, because we're living the life here in Nicholasville, Kentucky. But to be connected again to those who are on, boots on the ground, and to hear the stories of a life saved and a kid. Yeah. You can't put a price on those stories.
Right. Yeah. That's good. So I want to jump back. You mentioned earlier John Maxwell is your mentor.
Yeah.
Unpack that a little bit. How did that happen?
So crazy enough, man. As I started to read, one of the first books I read was a John Maxwell book. And crazy enough, even being in education, so I'm an educated guy. I didn't graduate summa cum laude like you. I graduated thank you laude. But with that being said, I had education, master's degree in counseling. I'd been teaching and coaching. We have professional development that we have to go to. And I never read a book. I stopped reading books before high school was over. And man, I got into entrepreneur business. And one of the first things that they teach you was to grow your mind, to grow yourself. Your income will never exceed your personal development. It will always come back to meet you where you are. It scared me to death. I'm like, dude, I'm not developed at all. I got to dive into these books. And that's exactly what I started doing. I started diving into the books. I'd underline, highlight, and then over time, I would take all those highlights and things that I underlined, and I would create and type in some book notes. Yeah. And so then I had binders of book notes. Yeah. And so I have all these binders in my study of all these books that I've read through the book notes. So now I can take a binder and have 30 books that I've read that have all the highlights. And, the goal is to, pick one principle, one concept, and then take action on it. There's a lot of people, they're so knowledgeable. They're super smart. And they don't take any action. Yeah. It's like, oh my goodness. And so John Maxwell being one of those authors that I immersed myself in, read the book, and we started to grow our business. We had an event. I had him come in, and he was super, I was pretty young at the time, and he was super impressed. And he said, I spotted an eagle and I'm going to mentor you. Wow. And he took me and molded me. And, I've been able to get some great counsel and mentorship by arguably what is considered the great leadership expert in the world. Yeah. And, a former pastor who gets to preach now in all these different audiences of non-believers, believers, a diverse group of people. And he's able to share in a way that very few can.
Yeah.
And so John's been a mentor, and it came from an event, and that came from me taking action and reading the books and all those things. So yeah, John's a big part of my life when it comes to the growth that I've had over the years. And what a good one to have in your corner.
Yeah, that's phenomenal.
He's always said, if you're the head of the class, you're in the wrong class.
Ooh.
And so for me, it's pushing myself to get in rooms where people have done it bigger, better, faster.
Yeah.
They know more, they've done more. It's almost intimidating because maybe their net worth is bigger. Everything's bigger, and they've given more. And it intimidates you, but it also inspires you. It breathes life into you that you know, if what you did yesterday still looks big to you, that means you haven't done that much today. Yeah. And so that's how all of us should be looking. You know, if what you did last year still looks big to you, then you haven't done that much this year. And it's being around those types of people that push you to do more than you thought was possible.
Yeah. That's good. So you said most important thing to start out is to grow yourself. How much time do you spend every day, every week, growing yourself, reading books?
And that's the beauty, man.
What does that look like?
It's the beauty. The beauty of growing is growth happens daily, not in a day. And most people, they overestimate versus the whole underestimate, overestimate is, man, this is a crock pot process. Now we're in a microwave society. People want it now. Yeah. They want to be a multi whatever. They want to be the top of the top. They want to have 1 million followers. They want to have all of it, but they want it now.
Right. And
the beauty is, and when I say rich, I'm not talking necessarily about money. It's a get rich for sure. A get rich for sure in your faith if daily you're in the Word, you're studying, you're praying, you're around the right people pushing you. You're rich with your marriage if you're constantly focused that you're reading together, praying together, playing together, you're growing together. Same with your kids. I mean, I can go through all the finances. It's a crock pot process. In a microwave society. You're going to stand out by doing a little bit every single day. I tell people, master the mundane or you will always master Monday morning. And what I mean by that is just choices and options. Do you want to own your time? If you're owning your time, you're going to have to master the mundane. And for me, it was 10 pages a day. So to answer your question, it was a build up there, Daniel, to answer your question, but it was, I'm going to take 10 pages a day, 5 in the morning, 5 at night. Start strong, finish strong. I control the bookends of my day, the beginning and the end. Then it gets chaos. Yeah. I got a bunch of kids. I've got 2 jobs. That's the chaos part. But in the morning, you can wake up at 5:30 before you really would have gotten up at 6 and be in a godly men's group looking to grow in their faith and have a support system. You can read 5 pages. That doesn't take very long. But imagine if you were to do that, Danny. You read 5 pages in the morning, 5 pages at night, 10 pages, 30 days in a typical month. That's 300 pages. That's more than most books. Right. If we look at that, those books are probably around 300 pages. Yeah. A book a month times 12 months, that's 12 books. You take one principle, one concept out of each of those books, that's 12 concepts that if you apply them, have you changed the trajectory of your life in a year? Now multiply that times 5 or 10. You're a totally different person. And that's what happens in entrepreneurship and business a lot of times. Even when you're congruent with your faith walk, people will say, "Oh, Daniel's changed." Well, I look at it, yes, I've absolutely changed. Right. You haven't changed, but I have. And I have because I've been immersing myself in books and growth and people that are inspiring me to do more. So it's that simple, man. It's not rocket science. It's every day you do just, a Zig Ziglar, who was just an outstanding speaker, said, by the mile it's a trial, by the yard it's hard, by the inch it's a cinch. And that's unfortunately how success works. It's a for sure gain if every day you'll you'll take a bite out of your apple is for me, an easy way to remember. If I'll do those things, learn what's the L, learn. Every day I'll listen a little bit, I'll read a little bit, and I'm always constant. How can I take action? Because it can't be learn. Yeah. It's you learn, you got to apply.
Yeah.
You make a mistake, get put on your back.
So how does that cycle work super practically for you? Can you give us maybe an example of what that looks like in your daily life? Because I think that's really where people get off the rails is they may start reading, they may even consistently read every day, but they don't take action on those things. And so what does that look like for you? How do you have that cycle of read, learn, implement, and then evaluate and circle back?
Yeah, so some of it is personality, and you have to fight your own personality. And just like your savers and spenders, we have two of our kids are spenders, but we taught them how to be savers. So you can rewire, if you will, some of your tendencies. Oh, but Chris can do it because that's what we call an excuse.
Yeah.
And so for us, Lindsay and I, we do something called Monday prep. And so that just simply means we have 7 days of calendars, what we call a time budget. It's in the book, and we block our time through what we call big rocks, the big rocks that are going to move us forward towards our goals, or what Darren Hardy, an impactful book called The Compound Effect. All your listeners should. I'm not going to get a royalty from it, but it's a phenomenal book. He calls MVPs, your most valuable priorities. So what is your priority that's going to move you closer in your faith goal, and your family goal, your friends goal, your finance goal, your business entrepreneurial path, your fitness, whatever those things are, you have to block. That's the first thing you block. That's the first thing that you've got to attack. Now, if you don't own your time, we both own most or all of our time, so we can dictate, navigate, and manipulate our day better than somebody who may has a job.
Yeah.
Nothing wrong with a job unless you don't want the job.
Right.
Then you got to find your way out of it, and we're giving some practical tips on how you do it. So with the time you actually own, if you have 30 minutes from 8 to 8:30 and you own that time is yours. Now, are you using it wisely or not? That's what you're making a decision on. Is if you want to use it wisely, you're going to say, I want to grow my business portfolio, my real estate business portfolio. Right now it's 0. I have no houses, no duplexes, I have nothing. So if you wanted to grow your real estate portfolio, you would then have to identify what are the big rock items, the MVPs, if you will, that would grow my real estate portfolio. And that's where you put it in that 8 to 8:30 the timeline. Yeah. And every day you're hammering that piece out. Maybe you don't have money, but you have some other, you're dialing for dollars, right? And you're dialing for your raising capital. So we could go in every area of life and hit this, but it's identifying the time that you own, what's important in those different areas, and then getting counsel. Again, I think it's in Proverbs 11, where there is no counsel to people fall. He who walks with the wise, probes wise, probably Proverbs 13. And I did Bible drill when I was young. And so I know a bunch of verses, which means nothing if you don't really understand and then act upon them. But getting that counsel, Daniel, once you've identified, man, I need to have a start strong. I need to have a finish strong. I need to have control. My life's chaos. I want to do all this stuff Daniel's doing, or this other interview person that you interviewed in episode 75. Man, I really like that person. Whatever it is, is you now have to decide, kill doubt that says, if I'm going to move forward, I have to get connected to some people that can direct me on what are those 2, 3, 4 things I must do. And then I've got to block out this time so I can do those things. And then what's going to happen is the compound effect, that multiplication, that momentum will start to happen, not in a day, but daily over time. That's where you have your little check your evaluation piece where you're tracking your score. So if you need to make calls, you need to dial for dollars. How many dials did you make today? How many dials did you make this week? And that will give you a target. And if you do something often enough, a ratio will appear. You'll know what your ratio is. And maybe it's, man, I got to talk to 100 people to get 10 people to commit. But man, you've got a ratio. Yeah. So all those things are important. And we could go on for hours and talking about this, but it's important because most people are lost. They don't know where to get started. And what I tell people is to start where you are. Yeah. The key to getting ahead in anything is to get started. Yeah. And start small. To get big, most people, they started small. Yeah. I mean, I started with one, a duplex, a single family, and all of a sudden it grew. Yeah. But it grew because I started.
Yep. Yep. Yeah. And I'm just thinking back to all of the successful people that I've ever interviewed have mastered investing their time before investing their dollars. And so they've really been intentional about what they're investing their time in, how they're investing it, and then consistently going through that.
And what's interesting that John taught me, Maxwell, is, again, how many seconds do we know is in today? 86,400 seconds. How many hours is today? 24 hours. So I don't necessarily, the managing of time, the time is there. I've got to manage myself. Mm-hmm. And if I'll manage me well, and that's where I'm assigning those seconds, is what is your assignment? And the problem is people aren't prepared. Prepare again is if you're not preparing, you are repairing. And most people are in repair mode and they're constantly catching up. They're in a headwind versus a tailwind. And I'm a cyclist. And if you've done any kind of, like, you've been on an airplane before, and it's like, man, it took a lot longer to get over to California or whatever, is because there was a headwind. Yeah. And so we want tailwind. Yeah. And one of the ways to get a tailwind is assigning that time and taking ownership.
Yeah, for sure. All right, Chris, before we enter the mentor minute, is there anything else that you want to share with our audience?
I would just say that if you are an audience member and you're consistently getting plugged in to this podcast, Daniel is someone of integrity and character and here serving the kingdom, which is why we're on the podcast, and we're talking entrepreneurship and business and money and all, but he's talking about money. Well, see, that's a problem. If you're scared of talking about money, you have to look at, how are people able to do mission trips? How are churches funded? Money can't buy happiness. Yeah. And poverty can't buy anything. And so if you have a skill set, why would the good people not get and create as much money as possible, knowing their only job is to be a good steward of it and to provide and do some great things? So, man, I would just say you do a wonderful job. I'm proud of you. Thank you. And I think anybody listening should be thinking of who they know. Who do they know that could be inspired by the podcast? Who do they know that could be served in some capacity by you and the podcast and the team that orchestrates this podcast? That would be something I feel like people should know.
Thank you. Appreciate that, Chris. All right. Who is the most influential person that you know, and how?
If I were to test you right now, Dana, you would know that answer already.
Yeah, I would say John Maxwell.
There you go. Bingo.
But
I told
you.
I told you.
Maybe we could get somebody else.
Gosh, if it's not John, and I didn't hear the second part of your question.
How have they impacted you?
Oh,
which we did hear a little bit about.
Yeah. So if it's not John, it's arguably the greatest inspirational speaker that you've never heard of, by the name of Dan Clark. who is absolutely unbelievable. He actually was a contributor to the Chicken Soup for the Soul series.
Yeah.
He is an amazing storyteller. He takes you through a roller coaster of emotions as he shares. And so for me, in public speaking and doing the teaching and the training and being in front of audiences that I am, he has been a massive impact. When I met him mentoring me, he's sit in this a very spot that you are. He'd been to the house multiple times, and for him to guide me and understand that that roller coaster of emotions, the stories that you tell, and so forth, that would be the second.
And then, what book or podcast has changed the course of your life?
So I mentioned earlier the compound effect, and I say that book because of the timing in which I read it. And sometimes people can argue on this book or that book, but it really always equates to the time in which you read it, the season of life, the chapter in that season, which you read something, heard something, because I know for our kids, man, we're trying to constantly instill the values and the principles and the philosophies and the beliefs that are all biblically congruent. At the same time, they'll resist us. They'll hear something from you, Daniel, the same thing I told them, and they'll think it's the best thing ever.
Yeah.
So sometimes it's the person, but for all of us in the different seasons of life, a different book's going to be different. But the compound effect is, man, that was a game changer for me. It changed everything. And so even though I've read plenty of books, that would be the game changer book for me.
Yeah.
Because it took me on a totally different path.
Last question.
All right.
What is the greatest lesson in leadership that you've learned?
The greatest lesson in leadership, and I think John says it best, everything rises and falls on it. So the best lesson is everything rises and falls on leadership.
Yeah.
And leadership is influence. And how do you gain influence? You gain influence by adding value to people. And if you'll focus on a value add, that would be the most phenomenal lesson, in my opinion, because if I'm in a constant value add focus, if that's my focus in all areas of life, I have the 7S, faith, family and friends, finance, business, food, fun, philanthropy. If those are the areas that you focus on and you're wanting to grow in your leadership and you want to have a lesson in leadership, it's that value to people, because you add value to people, you increase your influence with those people, and leadership is influence, and everything rises and falls on it. At least that's what John says. I'll take his word for it, but in my experience. So that would be it, man.
Chris, how can we be praying for you, and how can we add value to you and your family?
Yeah, man, I appreciate you asking that. And I would just say, 5 kids, 16, 15, 14, 11, and a 7-month-old. There are lots of challenges naturally.
Yeah.
And, one of the things that we want to instill in our kids is to be strong and courageous and be firm in their belief.
Yeah.
And so, praying to reject passivity, to take the initiative, to step up, speak out, stand strong for the Lord, and stand strong for what we believe. That'd be outstanding.
Can I pray for you now?
Yeah, it'd be great.
Let's pray.
Thanks.
God, I thank you for Chris, for his family, for his 5 kids. Lord, I just pray that you would continue to draw all of them to you, that you would help them to grow in their faith and really pursue you passionately, and that the Estes family would be just a Christ-honoring family, and continue to invest in your kingdom in all the many ways that we heard through the podcast. God, I pray that you would watch our audience, help them to really learn and grow and pursue you and invest in your kingdom. In Christ's name I pray. Amen.
Amen.
Chris, thank you so much for coming on the podcast.
Yeah, it's great.
And
man.
thank you guys for listening to another episode of the Kingdom Investor podcast. And we will catch you next time.